Yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support today. Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. This episode we got everything that went on during the Payback pay-per-view and on Monday Night Raw, trying to condense the two into one podcast episode, get you guys your reaction, feeling about what's going on, and the quality of the show going forward. We're going to start with Payback right away in the kickoff show, Enzo and Cass against Gallows and Anderson. Let's be serious. This match has been going on for months. It's been a completely repetitive process. We had the brand split for the sole purpose of giving us fresh new matches, new opponents, new ideas, and all we keep getting is the same stuff over and over and over again, and it's to the point of exhaustion. Enzo and Cass finally get a win. That's a good thing. I'm happy for them. They finally got some kind of win in a higher profile match, but Gallows and Anderson clearly have been through the gamut of every team there is on Raw. I actually am now thinking they should have been moved to SmackDown as well, because we're not getting anything that resembles new matchups going forward anytime soon. In the United States Championship match that kicked off the show, the main show of Payback, Kevin Owens takes on Chris Jericho in what has got to be one of the better matches. I expect them to always bring their A game, but in this particular match, they did an amazing job of really selling everybody's moves and making the match look really, really believable. Chris Jericho comes out on top with the surprise win, taking the United States Championship. If you watch betting odds, right up to the last minute, Kevin Owens was the odds-on favorite because Chris Jericho is leaving the company. Within the last 24 hours before the pay-per-view, Chris Jericho suddenly became the minus 1,200 favorite to win the match. And then he did. He wins the United States Championship. He's going to go into tonight's show. This is Tuesday. He's going to go into tonight's show on SmackDown to defend that championship in a rematch with Kevin Owens. I fully expect Kevin Owens to regain the title so Jericho can leave and do his touring with Fozzy. However, this, I think, was done for a different purpose. I think the reason they switched the championship to Jericho was to officially move him to SmackDown, so after he gets done his band touring with Fozzy, when he returns to the company, which I do expect to have happen, he'll come back and he'll be on the SmackDown brand. This is something I had blogged about earlier, that I think this is something really important for him to do. Go to SmackDown and create something new. The only issue I have is that Owens is now on the same show, and I think it's going to be hard. So much in the way Sami Zayn is hard to get away from Kevin Owens, now Chris Jericho will be hard to pull away from Kevin Owens with them being on the same show. So that's the only drawback to the situation. Otherwise, I thought this was booked really well. The Cruiserweight Championship match featuring Neville defending against Austin Aries. Talk about a complete letdown. The match itself was not. The match was fantastic, really physical. I love the part where Austin Aries was, almost looked like he was having a seizure because he was exhausted, and he knocked Neville over the top rope at one point after Neville had been taunting the fans for a while. But this match, to me, served absolutely not one shred of purpose. Neville won at WrestleMania. He wins again on this schmaz disqualification ending. It really did nothing to help Austin Aries. It does nothing to further solidify Neville. I don't really know what the long-term booking plan is here, but I don't like it either way. I think this feud has missed out on what could have been one of the premier feuds of the year. We're talking about feud of the year candidate for like Pro Wrestling Illustrated quality if these two are allowed to go out there and wrestle the way they know how. And instead we keep seeing them being pulled back because they don't want to just let these guys go for it. And it's really frustrating when you see two guys the level of talent as Neville and Austin Aries. The Raw Tag Team Championship being defended. The Hardy Boys defend against Sheamus and Cesaro. I expected Sheamus and Cesaro to come out of this match the champions. That did not happen. The Hardy Boys retained, and they retained clean in a really solid match. Back and forth action. However, after the match, Sheamus and Cesaro do the heel turn. This was a long time overdue. We need a better heel tag team on Raw to begin with, and they are as solid as it comes. They're significantly, in my opinion at least, they're significantly better established than Gallows and Anderson, so I think this is a good flip of Sheamus and Cesaro. I just wish they would have won the championships in the process. You saw Matt Hardy, after he was celebrating at the end, he did the delete sign one time, and then, after the beatdown from Sheamus and Cesaro, Jeff Hardy ends up losing a tooth. You had great promo in the back with them explaining why they did what they did, and I loved it. It was a really good setup for furthering the feud and really cementing Sheamus and Cesaro as a legitimate tag team. Up until this point, I still felt like they were two singles that were forced to work together. This made them seem like a real tag team, so I really appreciated that. In the Raw Women's Championship match, Bayley versus Alexa Bliss. I did not want to see Alexa Bliss win this match, but she was the favorite to do that, and she walks out the new Raw Women's Champion, first woman to have held the Raw Women's Championship and the SmackDown Women's Championship in her career. I think this was done purely to establish the fact that when she moved to Raw, she was a legitimate female competitor, and this does nothing but solidify that. Bayley, I felt like Her performance came off a little bit flat. I didn't like the match as much as I could have. I think Bayley kind of held back. Bayley is missing that real killer instinct in her character, the ability to really go at somebody and tear them down. And I think that once she finds that piece, I think she'll be a major player. But in the meantime, I almost feel like she was a transitional champion. Take the title away from Charlotte and transition it to Alexa Bliss. I know they always say you have to have a great heel champion to have a good babyface, challenging for the title. But this, I feel like, was a total misuse of Bayley and Alexa Bliss. But going forward, Alexa Bliss will be the new Raw Women's Champion. I look forward to seeing what they do booking-wise with her. The House of Horrors match got started. Randy Orton showing up in a limousine at some compound somewhere, goes into this house. It looked like it could have been somebody's apartment. There was used plates sitting in the kitchen and stuff in the refrigerator. It was ridiculous. And it was a full-on pre-recorded brawl in this house. Bray Wyatt ends up coming out, slamming, horrible editing by the way, dropping a refrigerator on top of Randy Orton, where before he drops it, Randy Orton's body takes up the whole floor space, and as he's throwing the refrigerator, they cut camera angles twice, and suddenly Randy Orton's legs aren't in this camera shot at all, which means he was not there. We're not stupid. Anyways, storyline, he drops this refrigerator on Randy Orton, leaves the building, gets in a limo, and heads to the arena, because the match cannot end unless there's a pinfall or submission in the ring. So that match will be added to later. In between the start of that match and the end of that match, we get the Seth Rollins Samoa Joe match, which was surprisingly boring to me. Joe spent the whole match being physical and beating down Seth Rollins. He made Seth Rollins look subservient to him. He made him look very weak. And then at the end of the match, Seth Rollins counters a move into a pinning predicament, and he ends up beating Samoa Joe. I don't understand when you've got so much buzz about Seth Rollins with his new finishing maneuver, when you have Seth Rollins being strategically positioned in potentially to be a world championship challenger, why you would have him beat Samoa Joe right now when Samoa Joe hasn't picked up a significant win yet, and he's supposed to be some kind of bulldozer. So going forward, I'm hoping that WWE finds a way to incorporate Samoa Joe into a high-profile program and actually give him some wins for a change, because right now he's just not getting them. But decent match either way. We come back, and they're back into the House of Horrors match. Bray Wyatt shows up at the arena, the lights go off, his music comes on, he gets in the ring, and when the lights come back on, Randy Orton's right behind him. And Randy Orton, goes at him. There's a whole brawl in the arena. Actually, better match from that moment on than the whole first part being in the actual house. The match is going really well. Randy Orton looks like he's setting him up for the win, and then there's an attack by the Singh brothers, and Jinder Mahal comes out, and they waffle him with the belt, and you see Sister Abigail coming from Bray Wyatt, and Bray finally gets the clean pinfall victory over Randy Orton, which, I know Bray's supposed to be the bad guy here, but he really has gotten the good guy response. So I think this was fitting that Bray Wyatt get the win here. The only problem I have is that means he lost the championship, didn't get a rematch, beat the champion in this match, and now is never going to get a shot at that title. That doesn't make even a hair's bit of sense to me. It's just my booking opinion. The main event sees Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. This match became extraordinarily physical. Roman Reigns really did a great job of selling the shoulder injury. He looked legitimately hurt throughout the match. He favored the other arm. He didn't use his bum arm pretty much the entire match. He looked like he had a shot to win the match at one point, which I think would have been a very bad idea. Braun Strowman is actually going to come out the winner here. He hits a couple of his running power slams at the end of the match, and he picks up the win, which was necessary, because if you're telling me that Braun Strowman's been completely unstoppable, and then Reigns had to give him everything he had at Fastlane to barely beat the guy, now he comes in as a gimp wrestler with one arm, and suddenly he's going to beat him again? That doesn't make sense. So you had to have Braun Strowman win this match. This sets up their rubber match at Extreme Rules, which I expect Braun Strowman to actually win, because I think he's going to be the one to challenge Brock Lesnar at this new pay-per-view they've announced, Great Balls of Fire 2017. Horrible name. But this ended a great show. The very end of the match, you see Braun Strowman, after he hits the power slams, he wins the match. He grabs the steps. He drops Roman's face on the steps. He picks the steps up and slams them into his chest. If you continued watching on the network after the pay-per-view went off the air, he went to go assault him again. He missed trying to spear him through the ambulance door, knocked an ambulance door off, smashes into some boxes. He comes over to get Roman Reigns, and he slams this ambulance door on him a few times. It was a really cool way to end the pay-per-view and just kick off that post-pay-per-view WWE Network exclusive footage. I thought that was really well done. You fast forward the next night, we get to Raw, and just to follow up on what happened at the pay-per-view, You kick off the show with Alexa Bliss in the ring with all the other divas, or I shouldn't call them divas, all the other women wrestlers. Alexa Bliss comes out. This is like her pseudo coronation. She comes out to the ring. She cuts a promo on thanking everybody for all their contributions, helping her get to where she's at, and she's essentially running down everybody. She's making fun of Sasha Banks. She wouldn't be here if she didn't beat her, and making fun of Bayley, and making fun of Mickie James, how she was around when she was a kid, and she draws a comparison between her and Mae Young and Fabulous Moolah, implying she's over the hill and old. She even bumps into Nia Jax at one point, which looks like it could go bad, and then she kind of like butters up to Nia Jax. This segment ends with a full-on brawl after she insults Bayley, and Bayley just can't take it anymore. Now, a little earlier I said how Bayley needs that killer instinct. This looked like the killer instinct Bayley that we need to see to really cement her character. The next match, they actually turn that into a match. It's an 8-woman tag team match. The heels end up winning the match. You get to see at the very end of the match, Bayley gets taken down for a DDT for the win for the heels. But at the end of the day, the match itself was just a lot of high-paced female action. There wasn't anything of storytelling in this match very much. There was a few opportunities to set up other feuds, which I like, but Dana Brooke even got a high spot in there with a handspring elbow, which was really cool to see. The next match, you have Enzo going against Luke Gallows. Of course, their compatriots are on the outside. A totally boring match. I don't know why we did this. Again, I hated it at the pay-per-view. I hated it even more the next night. Luke Gallows picks up the win. I expect that because Enzo Amore is a glorified mid-carder when he doesn't have Big Cass backing him up. There's an Intercontinental title segment where you have Seth Rollins out talking about how he should get a shot at the Universal title. You have Finn Balor come out talking about how he deserves a shot at the championship. Dean Ambrose comes out. He is the only real champion on Raw. He should be the head honcho. And then here comes The Miz. He's throwing out his challenges. And what it boils down to is they were able to take the spotlight off the Universal Championship and put it onto the Intercontinental Championship. Eventually, Kurt Angle coming out and making a match later in the show to see the Dean Ambrose take on Seth Rollins, take on Finn Balor to determine the number one contender to the Intercontinental title. I'm fine with that match. I found it completely strange that they took all the focus off the Universal title. It's the Universal Championship, and it has not been on television since WrestleMania. What is up with that? We're not going to see it till July. So from April to July, your Universal title doesn't mean anything? What happened to the 30-day title defense clause? It doesn't apply because it's Brock Lesnar? It doesn't make any sense. And it needs to be a featured part of the program. People are paying to see the champion, not just the Intercontinental champion. No offense to Dean Ambrose. Next match has Tony Nese, Brian Kendrick, and Noam Dar against Rich Swann, Akira Tozawa, and Jack Gallagher. Jack Gallagher is going to pick up the win for his team in this match. This was another one of those, let's throw 6 cruiserweights out there and just give them a couple minutes of screen time instead of giving them what they really need to tear the house down. I guess it helps, keep the interest in the 205 Live brand, but it's never going to truly accomplish what they want it to until they give it more time and more focus. This was just a little sampling of what these people can do, and this is what we get every week. A little sample, and then nothing really fulfills your need for what you want to see in one of these high-profile 6-man or tag team or whatever, even singles 205 Live matches. We need to see more. We need to see more substance in the storytelling and in the matches themselves. The only people able to pull that off are Austin Aries, Neville, and TJ Perkins, and they've been wrestling each other for so long. I'm bored seeing that too now. The tag team segment comes up next. You've got an issue with you have Sheamus and Cesaro come out. They're talking about why they did what they did the night before, that they're tired of the nostalgia act and they needed this tough persona and all these things. Of course, that has nothing to do with why I love this segment. I love this segment because the Hardys end up showing up at the end of the segment and they full on do the delete motion. So it's very obvious that the broken characters are on their way to WWE and they need to do it sooner than later. They charge the ring, and of course the tag team the challengers to the tag team titles take a powder and leave the ring because they don't want to face the broken Hardys. That will be cool to see as it evolves over the next couple weeks. We get a completely worthless match. I shouldn't say that. Heath Slater falls to Apollo Crews. I think it was essential for Apollo Crews to continue his storyline with Titus O'Neil. If you're ever going to give Titus O'Neil anything important to do, this was an opportunity to further that. I just wish it wasn't at the expense of Heath Slater. The other people from the 3-man band have all been doing really great lately, and Heath Slater's still left being a nobody, and he may be the most talented of the 3 of them. So I have a little bit of a problem with him never being able to get over the hump and really be a focal point of the program, but that's kind of where we're at right now. We have Kurt Angle come out. to talk to Bray Wyatt, who introduces himself to Angle for the first time. This sets up the future. I don't know how they're going to interact with each other, what the relationship's going to be, but it's very bizarre to see Angle shaking hands with Wyatt and Wyatt telling him, and Angle said something about it being his show, and Wyatt says, well, it's my world. I'm curious to see where they take that. And it was a very strange. Angle's not a very good actor. That's just my opinion. He's great in the comedic stuff, but he's not a very good actor, and I felt like this was more acting than anything. So I really didn't like the segment all that much, but I love the interaction between two people like Angle and Bray Wyatt. Austin Aries takes on TJ Perkins. Very good match, very solid, back and forth. Last chancery for the victory for Austin Aries because he has to, because he's going to be the guy to challenge Neville. I actually think what they're trying to do here is keep Aries and Neville together, feuding for as long as you can until you're ready to flip TJ Perkins on Neville and have Perkins take the title from Neville. That I'd be okay with because it would establish TJ Perkins' new character, but I don't like sacrificing the career and the reputation of Austin Aries to make that happen. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Finally, we get to the main event. The main event is that three-way dance or triple threat or whatever you want to call it for the #1 contendership to the Intercontinental Championship. We have all sorts of interference. Bray Wyatt comes out and he's going after Finn Balor. When it comes to Dean Ambrose for a moment there looked like he was actually going to pick up a win. Seth Rollins looked like he was going to pick up a win. You've got Samoa Joe comes out of nowhere and he's going to attack Seth Rollins and take Seth Rollins out of the equation. Bray Wyatt isn't out there and causes the distraction and then allows for the clean victory for The Miz, picking up a win that he doesn't truly deserve, but that gets him into the main spotlight as much as there is on Raw right now. Without the World Championship or the Universal Championship, this is about as close to a main event as you can get in Raw, and it was given to The Miz, which I think is a good thing. I hope he takes the title, because let him be the flag bearer for a little while without actually giving him the Universal Championship is actually pretty cool. Keep your eyes on tonight. Chris Jericho will be taking on Kevin Owens for the U.S. title. The winner will face AJ Styles at Backlash. I expect Kevin Owens to win this match. That way he could send off Chris Jericho. And, we'll see how things go from there. Incidentally, on the topic of the Payback pay-per-view, I found it funny that there was some things in the news from New Japan Pro Wrestling making fun of WWE. On their Twitter feed, they put down, no houses, check, no horrors, check, best wrestling in the world, check. It's a nice tongue-in-cheek shot from New Japan Pro Wrestling straight at WWE. We're going to do our fantasy booking. We are in the next round, and there are matches that I never thought that I'd be saying, but part of our booking is all you. You guys are the ones picking the winners here. I'm thrilled with what you've been doing, so I'm going to give you your matches for this round. Match number 1, Kazuchika Okada versus Bret Hart. Match number 2, Ric Flair. Remember, in their prime, Ric Flair versus John Cena. Match 3, Batista versus Brock Lesnar. Number 4, The Rock versus Randy Orton. Number 5, The Great Muta versus Harley Race. Number 6, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus the Immortal Hulk Hogan. Rob Van Dam versus Sting is match number 7, and a bizarre one, Yokozuna versus Jeff Hardy in match number 8. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us in the next one where we run down all the latest news and rumors and recap SmackDown. Special thanks as always to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all of our music and sound effects used in today's show. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with Sketchy People. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to www.thegamecrafter.com/sketchypeople to pick up your copy today. And to AlleyRepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. And if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.tsjsports.com/WWE for my latest articles on the world of professional wrestling. Until next time, everybody, take care and have a great night.